Hey folks, Rich here with a brand new plane to show you coming from FMS Models, showing up at Force RC real soon. This is their all new 80mm Futura sport jet. This is one of the latest and greatest in an all new line of both sport and scale jets coming from FMS. And the attention to detail, the ease of construction, and the price of these things is just phenomenal. You just can't get too much better than these things. This airplane, guys, it is a basically a 1200mm 6-cell powered 80mm sport jet. So it has tons of speed and power, but it also slows down to a crawl, has a real nice, a very wide envelope where it will fly very fast, it will also fly nicely, very slow, and tremendous suspension landing gear, guys. So this is going to be a great grass field jet, and also a very good jet for pavement as well. Helps absorb the shock so the plane doesn't bounce on landing. Again, guys, basic features of the airplane, overall overview. It's 1,070 millimeters long, so again about 1,200 millimeters. 1,060 on the wingspan, so a little over a meter wingspan. So it's a very nice size. It'll fit in your car just this way. But best of all, it builds in seconds, guys. The wings go on simply with 4 screws. There's a wing spar that runs through the middle. And the nicest feature about this, what FMS is doing with a lot of their airplanes, is the wings actually plug in. So as you can see, it has bullet connectors where you don't have any wires to connect your wings. You literally just plug the wing in. You put 2 screws on one on the bottom of the airplane. There's 2 for each wing, and the wing is assembled. So the plane is small enough where you do not need to really take it apart to transport it in most cases. But if you do need to take the wings off, they come off with 4 screws, wireless, guys. You just use those wing bullet plugs. The tail section, guys, assembles very, very simply. Your elevator goes right on, your horizontal stabilizer goes right on with 2 connections, and then your rudder plugs in, your horizontal vertical stabilizer with 1 plug in as well, and then 6 screws. So guys, 10 screws and the airplane is assembled and you're ready to put your receiver and your battery in. Now powering this thing, guys, is an 80mm 12 blade 2000mm or 2000 kV brushless in-runner motor. FMS is using a lot of in-runners. In-runner motors are really smooth and produce quite a bit of power, so it's really impressive what this plane does. Driving that is a 100 amp ESC, and then powering the entire airplane, you're looking at least a 4,000 milliamp is what you want. 4,000 milliamp 6-cell pack in this thing. Now, the servos in this everything's pre-installed, everything's pre-mounted. You've got 8 all-digital Metal Gear servos mounted throughout the entire airplane, and it's simply a 6-channel airplane. For your aileron, your elevator, your rudder, your throttle, your flaps, and your retractable landing gear. Next thing I'm going to do is flip the airplane upside down and show you guys the underside of the airplane. Starting at the tail, Steve, you can see right here, zoomed in on those. You can see the elevator servos, rods, horns, all that stuff's pre-installed. There's even a piece of fuel tubing on the keeper that's already set up. There's dual channels back there, guys, so you've got 2 servos on that tail, which is one of the nicest things to have when you have a high-performance airplane. Moving to the midsection here, you can see 2 screws simply to access your fan and motor compartment. And then on the underside of the airplane, the 4 screws I talked about, they're all flush-mounted Allen head screws, machine screws, to screw your wing in place. Again, guys, this plane's so small that you can transport it, but 4 screws, your wings slide off with those bullet connectors that we just saw. Now over to the wing here, Steve, I'll get this kind of angle so you can see these servos and the rods and the horns. You can see your aileron channels, all that stuff, ball links, rods, horns, flaps, same way, flaps, all those horns, rods, ball links, and even the fuel tubing for the plastic keeper up here, all pre-mounted and installed and ready to go. Now, one thing they did do with the ailerons as well, they made those submerged style traditional hinges like on a real airplane. So you can see how they will rotate here right around the center point. And they're machined out of several parts. The wing is one part, the aileron is another part, this little piece is another part, and so is this. So there's actually 4 foam pieces to actually hand assemble that aileron at the factory, and there's traditional style nylon hinge all the way throughout there. But the best part of all, guys, about the underside of this airplane is the retractable landing gear, guys. This is some really nice high-end, all machined aluminum retractable landing gear. They're all trailing links. Steve, if you want to zoom in here on this main gear, you can see how nice that compression is. There's metal trunnions in all the gear, so it's really, really tough stuff. And it's great when you're on grass, the plane doesn't bounce around. That really absorbs the shock. And on pavement, they make for very smooth landings. I'll go ahead and cycle it here for you. You can see how nicely that gear retracts up into the well. Stock like this, guys, right out of the box. It comes like this with everything installed. There's ventilated louvers up front here to let air in to get over the speed controller and really help cool that down. I'll go and extend them. You can see how nicely, guys, that thing comes out. Now, one thing I do want to note, Steve, go ahead and zoom in here on this nose strut. There's a lot of linkages on these, a lot of E-rings on these landing gears, and it's a good idea. What I did with mine is all the E-rings, even for your axles, which you really can't see on this side, but all these E-rings, it's a good idea to put a little bit of contact cement or rubber cement, like foam tack or something on there, and just kind of glob it onto that E-ring. And what that'll do is it will keep that E-ring from falling out. Because if sometimes with these E-rings on all these systems, you can apply this to any airplane, those E-rings fall out, you lose the pin, and then your landing gear is down, at least until you can find an E-ring. So it's a real good idea to secure those E-rings in place. Now, Steve, I also want to zoom in here. I want you to zoom in on this, this nose wheel unit inside the door. You can see how nicely this door is activated here. And you can see you do have a steering linkage that's all adjustable. And I'm going to cycle the gear one more time while you're zoomed here on the nose strut. You can see how nicely that whole thing cycles. That door articulates nicely. It's all spring loaded, and there's good adjustability there on your nose wheel. Now let me flip this thing back around and we'll get inside the canopy here, guys. The canopy is really nice. You can see right here, I'll lift this up. FMS is getting away from the magnetic hatches, and there's an actual latch mechanism. You can lift that up and just take this thing right off. You can see there's a ventilation slot here, and there's actually a vented hole right here. All that ventilation kind of helps keep the inside of the canopy cool, so you don't have quite so much bubbling. There is a pilot in there with an instrument panel, and the pilot is screwed in place so he doesn't come flying out of there, which is kind of nice. And then on the inside, guys, you can see your 6-cell. I'm actually running an E-flite 6S 4400 pack in here, and then you can see it's not too busy in here. There's a very nice wooden tray in here, and the nice thing is that the straps are plenty long enough, and it really holds that in place. And then on the inside, you can see your junction box, and there's plenty of places in there, guys. All this stuff is pre-wired and ready to go. But you can see there's plenty of room in there for a receiver. I have one on one side, and I have the other receiver on the other side. And having those antennas mounted 90 degrees to each other, that kind of helps reduce the chance of signal loss. Canopy goes on really nice again, guys, tongue and groove right here, and it just snaps into place nicely and locks in. Now, last thing I'm going to show you guys really is the flaps on this deal. Steve's going to go ahead and zoom in on there. I have mine on a 3-position switch here. I have a takeoff setting and a landing setting as well, and you can see how nicely those flaps operate. Anyway, guys, really nice 80mm 6-cell powered sport jet, assembles with 10 screws, priced really well, and just has a phenomenal performance envelope. Flies very slow and also flies really, really fast, guys. So be checking for this one, guys. Again, coming to Force RC. Thanks for checking out this video, and thanks for flying FMS models.